Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me for this on-demand webinar, Why You Should Be a CrossCheck ISO. My name is Brandon Weaver. I am an inbound marketer here at CrossCheck and will be your presenter today. In the next 10 minutes or so, I will show you statistics comparing checks to debit, credit, and ACH, what 2 questions to ask your merchants when selling check services, what factors to consider in a check service provider, and the compensation package available to you. At the end of the presentation, I hope you understand the importance of check services to your payments portfolio and your own bottom line. I'm going to cover everything you need to know and why you should consider partnering with us as a CrossCheck ISO. So let's get started. Functioning as your own independent sales organization, you probably have the following goals in mind, and I'm hoping you will learn today. How to be a problem solver, how to increase customer retention, maximize your earnings, and how to differentiate yourself from the competition. Adding checks to your portfolio helps you develop stronger relationships with merchants. And with stronger relationships comes increased customer retention. You become a trusted solution to your merchants' problems. If you are not offering merchants all payment services, you're not a full-service consultant, and you can't be maximizing your revenue. It's just that simple. Now granted, fewer checks are being written overall, but as the chart on the next slide shows, the value of each check is increased. Therefore, they're still highly valuable for merchants. And the more merchants that accept and process checks, the more revenue you make. And finally, like any good business, you need to differentiate yourself from the competition. Check services can be your own game changer from other ISOs that don't think checks are still a relevant payment method to business transactions. Here's a few charts that detail the importance of check payments for merchants, which also means they are important for you. In the top left, you can see that checks in the dark blue are the second fewest non-cash payment at 15%. However, checks' value is the second highest at 33%. This means that although fewer checks are being written and paid, they are being written for big-ticket items. The money changing hands is 33%. Some industries that continue to see check payments regularly are auto dealers, auto repair, building supply, and home furnishings. And for business-to-business transactions, well, take a look at the bottom right chart. You can see that checks are overwhelmingly the preferred payment method for B2B transactions at 60%. I'll say it again. If your merchants are not accepting checks and if you're not selling check services to them, both parties are not maximizing revenue. So what does this mean? Well, checks remain an important payment method for merchants, and you should be selling check services to your merchants. Diversifying your portfolio even more to include check services can only increase your value to merchants and entice them to stay with you. If you can offer another product to them, they are likely to become an even stronger relationship. Now these 2 questions you should be asking your merchants. First, how are you processing checks today? And there are likely 3 responses from this question. Either they are not accepting checks altogether, and therefore no check services are needed, but if that's the case, ask the merchant, why not? Can you really afford to say no to any payment form? Or the second response is that they process checks with your competitor, at which point, by partnering with CrossCheck, you can counter them with a lower price, premium services, and fewer declines. Or the third response is that they are accepting checks, but they are not aware of available check services and their value to the bottom line. If you encounter this third response, ask merchants, if checks are being returned due to NSF, or bounce checks as you might know it as, how are you getting paid on these sales? Do they hunt down the customer themselves demanding payment? Do they hire a collection agency? Check Guarantee can help eliminate this frustration and increase merchant sales in the process. All the merchant does is submit the check to the check service provider, and the merchant will be reimbursed the money so their account remains whole. With regards to deposits, are merchants forced to drive to the bank, or can they deposit checks at their point of sale? Remote Deposit Capture, or RDC as it's commonly known, allows the merchant to scan the check, upload the deposit to their bank, and monitor all transactions with online reporting. RDC brings the bank teller to their place of business, allowing them to deposit checks up to 3 days faster than manual deposits at the bank. To top it off, RDC comes with check guarantee built in, and any return checks with RDC are returned against the service provider, such as CrossCheck. In this case, there is no claims submission process, and the merchant's account remains whole no matter what, because they never see the bounce checks. By offering such payment services as check guarantee and remote deposit capture, you can help merchants guarantee their check sales, save time, and money. Now the second big question you should be asking your merchants is, what type of flexible payment options do you offer? Payment options like cash, debit, and credit require the customer to pay in full at the time of purchase. But with check payments, merchants that have multiple check service in place allow the customer to essentially make a down payment, take the item home the same day, and all funds are guaranteed for the merchant. Some business owners know this as whole check. Think of multiple check as sort of an in-home layaway, only much better. Layaway requires the customer pay off the balance before they can enjoy the purchase. Multiple check is flexible for both merchant and customer. It guarantees an increase in sales, frees up inventory space, and lets the customer enjoy the purchase the same day without having paid off the balance yet. With multiple check, all checks are approved before being deposited to the merchant's account, so the merchant is guaranteed to receive full payment. The first check is deposited within 48 to 72 hours, and the remaining checks are scheduled over 30 days. Now, think to yourself for a second. Would my merchants rather use a layaway program or multiple check? Just something to think about as we move along here. Now, by now, you're probably saying, okay, I get it. Check services are important to me and my merchants. So what sort of equipment do I need to get started? Well, for one, a credit card terminal or PC. Most of you on this webinar likely already have credit card terminals and or PCs that are processing payments. The only additional equipment needed is a check imager, like the RDM 7000 you see here on the right. How much does check service equipment cost? Pricing can vary widely depending on your service provider. Some providers charge hundreds for imagers, but CrossCheck will actually loan you and your merchants the necessary equipment free of charge. Pretty sweet deal, right? Now, when partnering with a check service provider, there are some important factors to consider. These factors are not listed in order per se, but maybe most important is the company's reputation. How long have they been around? What kind of reviews have they received? Doing a little research can help you whittle down your options. Equipment reliability and compatibility with your merchant's existing hardware. We here at CrossCheck have a detailed matrix of compatible devices that are likely to work with merchants' equipment. I've seen the matrix myself, and it can be daunting at first, but there's no need to feel overwhelmed by equipment options. That's what the retail system support team is here for, which leads me to my next point, ongoing support. Once you partner with us as an ISO, our retail system support team will help guide you with anything you need. They help you determine which equipment is right for you and your merchants. They'll walk you through setup and installation, answer questions about services, the list goes on. If that's not enough, our customer service team is on hand 24/7, 365 days a year to make your relationship with CrossCheck a profitable one. Now here's a slide that I'm sure everybody's looking forward to. Compensation and affiliate program. In other words, how do you get paid? For starters, you and CrossCheck share profits and costs. Remember, when you become a check services ISO with us, we're developing a partnership, so it makes sense that we share. Setting your own pricing is an important factor, especially if you're trying to court new merchants and replace their existing programs. If you can beat their current provider's rate, and oftentimes we can, why not do it? Handpicking services you want to sell is also important, and often depends on the merchants you service. For example, if you have a lot of auto dealers, repair shops, and home furnishings, RDC and multiple check may be the better options for you. But let's say you have a lot of medical offices and veterinarians, for example. RDC and stop payment, respectively, may be more applicable. Payment services should be flexible, and we are too. Being able to private label our services to your own brand is another added benefit we allow. One of our main goals with ISOs is to have them be profitable. If you're profitable, we are too. So it's in our best interest to offer you a host of check services, high acceptance rates, and top-notch customer service. To read more about CrossCheck's compensation program, please visit the link you see here. Now, before I close out the presentation, I wanted to highlight this particular testimonial we received on our Facebook page recently, and it was completely unsolicited from a long-standing ISO with us. I have been a CrossCheck representative since 1992 and been receiving residual checks for 22 years. I am now retired, and those checks come in handy. If you want a dependable company to work with, add CrossCheck to your company. Think about that for a second. This former ISO still receives residual checks 22 years later. That's part of the beauty of partnering with us, the continual payoffs. Here's a small sampling of associations CrossCheck is partnered with based on industries that continue to accept and profit from check payments, such as auto dealers, home furnishings, and building materials. We're even closely associated with a few payments groups as well, such as ETA and NACHA. In our experience, it's important to align yourself with experts in each industry to understand merchants' concerns and how they operate in order to offer a better service. These groups, along with many others, are leaders in their industry, and we are proud to be associated with each one. Our affiliates list continues to grow, and the complete list can be found on our website, broken out by industry type. Now, I know we've covered a lot today in a short amount of time, but I'm confident we touched on the most important elements and why you should consider being a CrossCheck ISO. If you have any questions or want to take the next step, shoot us an email at sales@cross-check.com or call us toll-free at 888-937-2249. We even put together a comprehensive insider's guide, what ISOs should look for when choosing a check services provider. You can download it by clicking the link here, but it's also listed on our website with all of our other guides, ebooks, and white papers. Thanks again for your time and consideration today. I hope you found the information useful and will consider becoming a CrossCheck ISO in the near future. Have a great day, everybody, and take care.